Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Brian, for getting us off to a good start here and all. Really appreciate all of you joining us for our what is our fifth annual Exploring Indiana webinar. We do this each year to sort of celebrate our accomplishments from the past year, and in this case, going to give you a little bit of a peek into what's on the horizon for us. We're sort of celebrating the connection or the intersection between humans and nature. And I think never before have I felt in my lifetime that, nature is so important to us humans right now. I think in the past, we've often thought that nature really needs us to take care of it. And in some ways, it probably does. But probably more than ever, we need nature right now to be in and enjoy and just the calming effect that nature gives to us. So we've accomplished so much in this past year. We're in the final year of our 5-year plan, as we called it internally here. We took this decade. We took the decade that we're in and put it in two pieces. We put it in the first 5-year chunk. We built a strategic plan around that. This is the last few months of that strategic plan. And so as we talk tonight with you, you're seeing not only what we did in this past calendar year of 2024, but some highlights that are also occurred over the past 5 years. We've decided, or we declared this a critical decade. And I think all of us that are on this webinar, because we care so much about our natural world, realize that this is a critical time for us. And so we really look forward to sharing with you. I want to start tonight off with this, I think, a fantastic video describing much of the work that was accomplished through our human nature campaign that we focused on the last 5 years. We've successfully completed this fundraising campaign. It was $48 million, and we've raised more than that actually now. So I want to let you enjoy this video to get us started tonight.
For too long, people thought nature and humans were separate. But as we know, the prosperity of humans and nature are deeply interconnected.
The Nature Conservancy in Indiana's Human Nature campaign was built on the idea that when nature thrives, humans thrive.
Human Nature was the largest fundraising campaign for conservation in Indiana's history. We raised over $48 million from people like you.
Thank you for helping bring these incredible conservation wins to Indiana.
With your support over the past 5 years, we have protected an additional 10,000 acres of land, including the protection of 1,700 acres adjacent to Patoka National Wildlife Refuge. This was our largest protection project in 25 years and the second largest in our state's history.
We planted 140,000 trees in our preserves across the state, helping improve air and water quality, carbon sequestration, and climate resilience for Hoosiers. In addition, we are working with private landowners who own the vast majority of Indiana's forest to rejuvenate woodland habitats through our innovative Forest Bank and Forestry for the Birds programs.
Indiana staff conducted 117 prescribed fires on a record 11,000 acres, expanding this cost-effective tool for controlling invasive species and helping native species thrive.
We worked with partners to remove 4 outdated low-head dams in southern Indiana, reconnecting nearly 1,800 miles of stream habitat for aquatic species and improving the safety of our rivers for Hoosiers. With the discovery of a juvenile hellbender salamander in southern Indiana's Blue River, we were thrilled to witness evidence that our efforts to improve stream habitat in this scenic river system are paying off.
We worked with the agricultural community to set new cover crop records year after year in Indiana. Cover crops not only improve water quality, but also improve a farmer's bottom line by improving soil health and reducing their fertilizer needs.
We have transferred 61 buffalo from our Kankakee Sands Preserve to 5 different indigenous nations through TNC's partnership with the Intertribal Buffalo Council. The restoration of buffalo back to these communities opens a new chapter for our work with Indigenous communities.
We implemented TNC's Mining the Sun strategy, which repurposes mine lands and brownfields as clean energy locations across Indiana and the nation. Along with our renewable energy site assessment tool, we are identifying the best areas in the state to site renewable energy projects that don't conflict with conservation, communities, or agriculture.
We enhance the visitor experience at many of our most popular preserves, creating improved trails, parking areas, signage, and seating areas. Just last month, we unveiled extensive improvements at Kankakee Sands in northwestern Indiana, and we're currently hard at work creating new trails at Douglas Woods in northeastern Indiana.
We've participated in 500 outreach events and hosted over 400 volunteer workdays, engaging with over 9,000 event attendees and over 2,000 volunteers. And we've partnered with the Indianapolis Recorder to expand the reach of environmental stories.
We work very closely with Governor Holcomb's administration and the state legislature to fund Clean Water Indiana and the President Benjamin Harrison Conservation Trust.
We also worked with our Latin American colleagues, helping to protect 236,000 acres of the Belize Maya Forest, essential winter habitat for songbirds that migrate to the Midwest each spring to breed and raise their young.
With the progress made possible by the Human Nature Campaign, we are incredibly hopeful. While conservation work is never done, we are thrilled to reflect on the collective impact we have all had on our state and beyond.
This campaign gave us a critical boost in a pivotal decade. Now we must continue to keep this momentum going. We look forward to working with you in the next 5 years to reach TNC's ambitious 2030 goals to help balance our planet's ecosystems.
From all of us at the Nature Conservancy, thank you for helping give Indiana and our planet a better future, one where both humans and nature thrive.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. And again, thank you. It's just amazing what we can do together when we come together with a common vision of protecting our natural resources. So tonight, we're going to share a few more stories about some of our programs here. This is our agenda tonight as it'll go. We'll have a little bit about our connecting people and nature work, our volunteering work, our agriculture. We'll talk about prescribed fire and what we're doing there. And then we've got two of our staff members going to start talking a little bit more about the future and looking not only about what they're excited about in 2025, but even a little bit beyond. If everything goes well, we should have 10 minutes or more at the end for some questions and maybe a little bit of discussion if you would like to have that. So I'm going to keep us moving along. That's my main job tonight. I get to wear many hats, and this is one of them tonight. I want to introduce Melissa Moran. She's our Director of Community Programs, and she's going to discuss how we connect people with nature and our work within communities across Indiana.
Thanks, Larry. As Larry said, I'm Melissa Moran, Director of Community Programs, and I, along with every staff member at the Nature Conservancy in Indiana, get to think about how do we do our work in a way that invites more people to learn about conservation. The places that the Nature Conservancy protects and stewards draw people into the experience of nature and invite us to learn about conservation. Scientists conduct research at the Nature Conservancy's preserves. School groups visit our natural areas to learn more about nature and ecological science, and visitors come to recreate at our preserves. We've made some big investments in facilities this year to help draw people in, and thanks to the support and encouragement of many of you on this call today, we have some really exciting progress to show you. Some of the improvements are about improving accessibility. At Kankakee Sands in Northwest Indiana, new accessible parking is connected with accessible routes to accessible restrooms, viewing platforms, and picnic areas. We're including the accessible icon, which is an updated, active-looking, accessible parking icon that invites people of different abilities to get out and explore Kankakee Sands. We were able to see how these improvements enable more people to enjoy the prairie before the facilities even opened. Donnie Johnson, who's the gentleman in the orange shirt in the upper right, was on the site every day during construction and personally installed the viewing scopes on the deck there. The day after installing them, about 8 of us from the Nature Conservancy, the contractor, and the design firm were reviewing progress in the construction. And we described that the spotting scopes have this special lens that adjusts for red-green color blindness. Donnie, looking surprised, went to look through the scope for the first time and could see the pink color of a construction flag that had been left in the prairie. His colleague, Yusuf, who is in this photo in the yellow vest, said, "Are you colorblind? I am too." And for the next 10 minutes, the two of them giggled and laughed joyfully, enjoying the colors that they could see through this lens. That day, 1/4 of our group benefited from the simple addition of this correcting lens. Another aspect of these improvements is about stories. At the Nature Conservancy, we love telling stories, especially stories about the land, the ecology, plants and animals who live in the places we work. Sometimes we'll share stories about the staff who care for the land and the donors who are inspired to contribute to the work that we do. There are still more human stories, and the Nature Conservancy is learning that there are important stories that we can bring forward to help connect more people to nature. Combining signage and these stories, as you see here in the photos, we're finding new ways to welcome people to or back to the land. With the help of Indigenous partners, we added signage at Kankakee Sands with untold Indigenous histories of the Kankakee Sands area, several of them about the forced removal of the tribes. Through this signage, we invite visitors to our preserves to read a land acknowledgement and learn more about the Indigenous people who know Kankakee Sands as part of their traditional homelands. The Indigenous word translations on the signs also highlight Indigenous knowledge that connects to contemporary conservation practices. In the upper left, you'll see the Miami word for prairie, ma-kotewi, contains the word for fire, kotewi. The two things are intertwined traditionally, and seeing that these are important practices for our stewards now was a true wow moment as the signs came together. You are all invited to visit Kankakee Sands with these new amenities, and you may be surprised by the things that you learned there. In addition to the preserve improvements, the Nature Conservancy is also unifying people in conservation through partnerships. We're working to connect with new audiences, especially those who are not well represented in conservation. We're collaborating with the Indianapolis Recorder to expand the reach of environmental stories. We've also partnered with Indiana Landmarks to explore the story behind the name of Boone Cave at Greens Bluff Nature Preserve. In the photo here, you'll see our colleagues at Indiana Landmarks with the grave marker of Zilpha Boone, which is very close to the entrance to our preserve. Zilpha Boone had been enslaved by Daniel Boone, who brought her to Indiana from Kentucky, and her family went on to become owners of the land that is now part of Greens Bluff. When the research on this history is complete, we will share this untold story so that more people can realize their connectivity to these beautiful places. In Indiana, we're continuing this work. We'll be making visitor improvements at 7 flagship preserves around the state. The improvements are intended to add facilities that welcome and invite people into the experience of nature and conservation. In the near term, we'll be looking at improved signage at several preserves in central and southeast Indiana. We'll have visitor access improvements at Douglas Woods, South and Northeast Indiana. And we're beginning also the planning for community access improvements at the Ivanhoe Nature Preserve in Northwest Indiana. So we have lots of amazing things to look forward to in these next several years. And I will pass it back to Larry so we can continue learning from my colleagues.
Thank you, Melissa. And yes, I hope you all have the chance or the opportunity to go on a hike or even just visit on your own some of these preserves. They're just spectacular places. I often say there's places in Indiana where you would swear you're not in the Midwest. It's just some beautiful places. I want to transition from Melissa to Esme Barniscus, our volunteer and event specialist, and Elisa Nyberg, our restoration ecologist up at Kankakee Sands, to talk about our amazing volunteer programs and how our audience, if you're interested, can get more involved with the Nature Conservancy.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Larry. I appreciate it. And thank you all for tuning in on a cold, cold winter night to hear all about volunteerism. My name is Esme Berniscus, and I'm going to be sharing a little bit about our statewide program and options and opportunities and kind of reflecting on the past year. And then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Elisa Nyberg, for a deep dive on Kankakee Sands community of conservation. While we get started, I think it's helpful to think about the purpose of the program and what we're all about, what really drives forward volunteerism. This is a community of several hundred volunteers, our fabulous staff that I'm so lucky to work with, and, our donors, members, and just the entire communities where we work. So it's a lot of people who are involved. And the purpose behind it is twofold. The first one is it allows the Nature Conservancy to expand the reach and impact that we are able to have on conservation. We have volunteers who help out in the field, they get dirty, or maybe they're pulling out invasive plants or putting in the good stuff. We also have volunteers who are behind the scenes doing conservation research, organizing photos and taking them for us, and helping us tell stories, doing education and connecting people, really welcoming visitors to places that we are so lucky to care for. And each one of these efforts allows us to work across a wider spectrum of geographies and do more projects and do more good. The other purpose for the program is maybe my favorite. It's all about connection. Volunteerism is an action. It's a choice to show up and say, I'm going to help out. I'm going to get involved. And it also can inspire people and have ripple effects to keep taking more actions. I know lots of volunteers share about their experience with the Conservancy with their friends and family. And that ripple effect is really spectacular to see. My colleague in the Illinois chapter, Deborah Williams, always says that her work is all about connecting people with people and people with nature. And I think that's the perfect way to describe this program. I've been glad to watch friendships and partnerships, social moments and happy laughter and jokes, all that good stuff shared between volunteers and each other, with staff, and also with the places that we protect. So ultimately, we're all about curiosity, learning a lot, spending time in fellowship together, and having those aha moments that spark further learning and further service. And in 2024, I love to throw some numbers up there. We had over 450 volunteers give over 4,200 service hours. And each one of those hours and each one of those individuals is their own story, that personal journey that they've gone on. But I thought I'd pick out just 4 quick highlights, and it's hard to pick. It's like trying to pick a favorite kid. But I thought I would start with the gentleman here on my right. These are individuals from the Indiana Climbers Coalition. This is a rock climbing group, and they reached out and were extremely enthusiastic after I publicized the need to have a volunteer group take on designing and building a footbridge at Henderson Park, a preserve that we take care of in Washington County. It was a persistent low spot, no fun for visitors, and they were very curious about the kind of conservation that TNC did. They wanted to explore a new place together and just give back. And they rocked it. They brought out all those materials, they designed it, they got it done in one day, and it had a great time too. About 3 weeks later, we hosted a big event with the Indiana Karst Conservancy at Henderson Park called Discovery Day. And about 30 or 40 or so visitors got to then walk across that bridge and have that positive, no muddy feet experience. Another highlight I like to always bring out is Bill Cummins, and I know he's not on here, but he was earlier, so thanks, Bill. Bill offered to help us repair this thing called a fanning mill, and it's something that Elisa uses at Kankakee Sands to separate the seeds that we plant on the prairie from the hulls and chaff. So it's super useful, and it was broken. And he spent almost 200 hours taking care of it, taking it apart, recreating new pieces, and then delivering it back to Kankakee Sands. This enables our work to be more effective and efficient in restoration down the line. And finally, the last highlight, I would be remiss to not mention our Earth Day tree planting event with Cummins, one of our corporate partners, where they planted almost 1,500 baby trees. It was a long day, lots of conversation, lots of young trees, and a lot of mud. So we did a lot together in 2024, and if any of these inspire you, let's take a look at what we have coming up in 2025. And it's also hard to pick what to put on here because this is just a small slice. We have lots in the works. But on here, these one-day experiences are all over the state, and they're kind of a variety of different ways to be involved. I hope one or more appeal to you. But if you're looking for something a little bit more ongoing, we have 2 open roles right now, and those are really excellent for people who love nature and then love talking to people about their love of nature. So if you know somebody or maybe yourself is super interested, please let me know. I am interested in talking to you. And you're probably also wondering right now how to get in contact. So I have some wonderful options for you. There's a webpage, nature.org/Indiana Volunteer. That's the big one. On there, we have a calendar of events. Everything gets put on there. There's a sign up for the newsletter as well. And of course, you can always just email me. I love to hear the passion, the skills, the energy, the ideas, the what if moments from everyone. So if this is something that you're interested in getting involved with, we'd love to have you in 2025. Over to you, Elisa.
Wonderful. Thank you, Esme. And hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm Elisa Nyberg, a restoration ecologist here at the Ephraimson Prairie at Kankakee Sands in Northwest Indiana. And my work focuses mainly on seeds, plants, and people. Esme talked about our statewide volunteer program, and I'm going to narrow our focus a little bit and chat specifically about Kankakee Sands. While I'm presenting tonight, if any of you have by chance visited Kankakee Sands and want to put in the chat what you did when you were here, that would be lovely. I think we'd all enjoy seeing that very much. So please feel free to do that while I'm talking. Over the past 25 years of our Kankakee Sands history, volunteers have helped us with so much of our conservation efforts on these 8,000 acres, which has been wonderful. And even more wonderful is that our volunteers, along with our TNC staff and partners, have created something called a culture of conservation community. It's kind of hard to say, but you all are on mute, so go for it. Try to say it 3 times, maybe even 5 times fast. Culture of conservation community. So that you can get a better feel for what that culture of conservation community can look like, I pulled together some photos here, which Brian will graciously scroll through as I'm talking this evening. As Esme mentioned, our Indiana chapter of the Nature Conservancy has an extremely robust community engagement program. And I think this idea of a conservation community just takes it one level deeper. It's all about connecting with one another, doing good work in partnership for the good of the natural world and all the beings that inhabit it, and for taking joy in our collective action. The culture of conservation community at Kankakee Sands has happened naturally over time. I remember hosting events when volunteers would come, they'd start chatting with one another, walking, working alongside one another, sharing in the beauty of our Indiana natural world, smiling, connecting, eating snacks, lots of cookies, and suggesting to one another that they would like to see each other again. These days, when I host programs, when we all host programs, as folks arrive, they often do a quick wave to me and they're off to go chat with their volunteers friends, which is just so fun. As you can see from these photos, a big part of our community of conservation work involves Friends of the Sands. Back in 2004, a small group of volunteers came together alongside staff to create Friends of the Sands, which is an organization which does amazing environmental education and takes action very locally, especially through their native plant sale each May. Our community of conservation extends to working with many partners in Newton County, such as DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, our local Newton County Soil and Water Conservation Office, local libraries, historical society, birding groups, area land trusts, so many great conservation partners. It's really enriching to be interacting with so many. We hope that you all will consider joining us in 2025 at Kankakee Sands and at our properties all around the state of Indiana to join in this experience of culture of conservation. Remember that Esme is a fantastic point of contact for the activities across the state, including there'll be a spring call out for bison rangers who educate the public about prairies and our bison program at Kankakee Sands. And we also want to be sure to invite everyone to National Bison Day on the first Saturday each year in November. If you don't yet have a conservation community in your area, I want to encourage you to create one. Try attending a nature-based gathering, chat people up, make memories together, have fun, eat cookies, find out when the next nature-based activity is, and encourage others to show up again. So yeah, thank you all for coming. With that, Larry, I'll turn it back over to you. And thank you all so much for all you do for our chapter.
Thank you, Esme and Elisa. Wonderful, and lots of opportunities to get involved with our programs there. And as I've said before, someday my ambition is to ultimately become a TNC volunteer and be able to work with Esme and those people. I love being around them. So let's just keep transitioning here. I want to introduce Seth Harden, our Upper Wabash project director. And Seth has a great story to talk a little bit about our agriculture in the west central part of the state and how we're expanding some of our work there. And of course, we do agriculture work all across Indiana, but this is one special place that he's going to talk about.
Thank you, Larry. Good evening, everyone. As Larry mentioned, my name is Seth Harden, and I am the Upper Wabash River Project Director. For 8 years, my time here at TNC, I've been on the Indiana Freshwater Conservation Team, and happy to say that due to our expanding work that I'll talk about here momentarily, our freshwater and agriculture team has doubled in size in that same 8 years. So a lot of great things going on in this space. For well over a decade, the Wabash River Basin has been our freshwater conservation priority, and for good reason. It is our state's official river and includes the longest free-flowing section of river east of the Mississippi, 411 miles. However, it is also a leading nutrient-contributing subwatershed to the Gulf of Mexico hypoxic zone and includes the West Fork of the White River that flows right outside our doors here in Indianapolis, the highest nutrient-loading subwatershed in the entire 33-state Mississippi River Basin. Needless to say, there is strong evidence for our work here and across the basin. Around 15 years ago, TNC performed a study to prioritize all tributaries of the Wabash River. Big Pine Creek, which we've spoken about before on this webinar, became an obvious choice for improvement with intensive agriculture in its headwaters, yet unique ecology in its lower stretches. Since then, TNC has invested over $7.5 million with partners to transform how farmland is managed, including transition to best management practices like strip tillage seen in the lower left-hand photo here on the slide. To improve water quality and preserve biodiversity, such as the caddisfly larva you can see at the tip of my thumb there in the picture in the upper right-hand corner. Our work here in the Big Pine Creek watershed with over 40 partners has built a culture of transformative change over the last several years. It's been so successful, in fact, that we were able to accelerate grant deliverables and surpass many of our water quality improvement goals that we had set. This project was also awarded the Governor's Award of Environmental Excellence in 2022 and is considered a case study of achievement for watershed science across the Midwest. And it's just a wonderful place to be and visit. We look forward to hosting some of you there if you'd like. So with that, we are moving to expand this work. In the map on the left, you see the outline of the Big Pine Creek watershed there in Benton and Warren counties primarily. That's a 210,000 acre watershed. The map on the right is a map of our future and incoming work that expands that territory greatly with many of the same objectives. This area includes many familiar watersheds, including Sugar Creek, Wildcat Creek, and the Tippecanoe River. It also allows for a much broader set of partnerships across those counties and across state lines. Uh, and we also look to have greater impact in that area that TNC has modeled as an ecosystem with high resilience, even though it is surrounded by intensive land use of different types. We are thinking bigger and with a bigger impact of the landscape's scale, as you can see on the map. As this expansion of our focused work begins, we're excited to announce that we've been awarded a $15.75 million grant from the United States Department of Agriculture for the next 5 years in the Central Wabash River Basin. A photo of which you can see on the upper left here. That's a photo from a recent staff outing to kind of scout a section of the Wabash River. This was one of 6 grants totaling $102 million that TNC was awarded in 2024 through the RCPP program. It's a highly competitive nationwide application process. So we're excited to have those funds come into TNC and more excited to have them come here to the Wabash River Basin. As you saw in the previous slide, we'll be working in almost 30 counties across Indiana and Illinois. We'll be working alongside our Illinois TNC staff to build cohesion in our freshwater and agriculture work across TNC's Midwest division. We've leveraged an additional $1 million from 18 committed partners for this project, including 15 local soil water conservation districts that you all may be familiar with. Along with our water quality goals of reducing sediment and nutrient loading, as I mentioned before, we'll also be focusing on stream ecology and biodiversity. We'll be conducting biological assessment at 44 sites annually to better understand how our land-based work is improving game and non-game fish biodiversity, population density of benthic macroinvertebrates, the foundation of our aquatic food web, and freshwater mussels, a few of which you can see in the lower left-hand photo. Some of those shells and samples are from Big Pine, the Wabash. Finally, I'd like to thank you all for making this work possible and welcome you to join us in the field and on the water sometime soon if you're interested in learning more about how we build solutions for resiliency of our freshwater resources here in Indiana. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth, and what a great opportunity to expand our work there. And I know you and the partners and the rest of our freshwater and agriculture team are anxious to get out there and move those federal dollars into the hands of landowners and farmers to do the great conservation practices that they'll be doing. And other thing I would just mention too, and you talked about it there, was the work that we do at the Nature Conservancy is almost 100% of the time through partnerships. And those can be federal, state, local agencies. They can be private corporations, other conservation groups, but we just really are proud to be an organization that loves to work through partnerships and values the relationships that those have. So I want to now move us into talking a little bit about fire and our prescribed fire program. And certainly as we go into this here, recognizing the catastrophic fires that are happening right now in our Western US, particularly in California, and the people that are suffering there and the communities that are being significantly impacted by wildfire. So as we go into this here, Stuart Orr, our Indiana fire manager, is going to be talking about how we use fire here in Indiana to actually manage our natural systems.
All right, good evening, everyone. As Larry mentioned, I'm Stuart Orr, the Fire Program Manager for the Indiana chapter. Today I'll be going over some of our accomplishments from 2024, and then we'll watch a video of some of the good firework that we do. So why does TNC engage in prescribed fire in Indiana? Well, most of the natural communities in Indiana evolved with fire and need it at some level to persist. Without fire, these communities eventually degrade, reducing biodiversity. So for us to restore and maintain these fire-dependent communities, we need to put good fire back on the ground. And to that end, 2024 was a great year for prescribed fire in Indiana. The Indiana chapter led 20 prescribed burns for 3,396 acres, which is a new record for us. We also assisted partners on 11 burns for 3,594 acres. Another highlight for 2024 is our fire training program that we run. TNC uses the same fire training system that our federal partners use, allowing us both to conduct our burns more safely and to work seamlessly with our partner agencies. Last year, we trained 14 people as wildland firefighters, including TNC staff, volunteers, and partners. And since 2020, we have run 48 people through our fire training program. The final highlight I want to share is our ongoing partnership with the Hoosier National Forest. Working with the Hoosier, last year, TNC was awarded $440,000 for salary and startup costs for a new fire and invasive strike team. This two-person team will help us and our partners around southern Indiana with prescribed burn assistance, fire break prep, and invasive species control. And with that, I hope you all enjoy this video of some of our good fire work. Thanks, everyone.
A lot of people, when they think of fire, they think of the stuff that makes the news, the big blown up fires out in, the western US. But really, fire is a natural part of most of the world's terrestrial vegetation systems. The Midwest is full of fire-dependent ecosystems, prairies, savannas, fens, oak woodland, and even in the Northwoods. Many, if not most of them, depended on fairly frequent fire. We've had decades now of seeing what a lack of fire does, and a lot of us are trying to put fire back on the ground to help restore those systems. All right, well, thanks everybody for coming out today. This is the Prairie Border North Block East Unit. It's 80 acres. We last burned it last year. Today's burn was done in an area that is pretty overgrown. It had been fire suppressed for a number of decades, and we're trying to take essentially what looks like a forest, but shouldn't be, and knock it back into an oak savanna. If you walk through here, where we have closed canopy forest, it's not a true forest, so there's really nothing going on in the understory. But if you open it up, put more light on the ground, you get a lot of really cool rare plants, and where you have the rare plants, the rare animals follow. These systems evolved with fire, and so we're here bringing back that natural process, that natural disturbance that these systems require in order to thrive. Should get a really good response from the native flora and fauna.
So it's about 5:20 in the morning. We're out here doing a bird survey. Doing a little bit of comparison between a unit that we burned this year versus a unit we burned last year, looking for grassland birds in our restoration. We're standing in what was an ag field just about a decade ago that's been restored into a really gorgeous prairie. I can hear like a brown thrasher, some Henslow sparrows, common yellowthroats, brown-headed cowbirds, bobwhite quail, red-headed woodpeckers, lots of species that rely on our grasslands. Only like 1% of grasslands still remain in most of the United States. And so anywhere that we can find these little pockets of ag field and restore them, and these grassland burns can come find them and say, yes, I can have a home. We give them a fighting chance to survive for the long run.
Grassland birds are just in a downward spiral. What prairies are left, even if they've been preserved, if they're not managed with fire, they're going to fill in, become a shrubland, become a forest. And then what you originally tried to conserve by protecting that site, those values that you're trying to protect go away. Keeping fire on the ground, it really helps maintain that biodiversity. There's thousands of species here, and all that diversity that we have is enhanced and promoted by the use of prescribed fire.
That's a lark sparrow. Fresh breeding plumage. You can see kind of has that lined face pattern with multiple colors on its face, and you can see that nice bright white on the outside of its tail. That was probably the best moment of the day for me. A new species on the site and another species that's in decline, just being like, heck yeah. It's one of those lovely full circle moments. All of those hard days, sweating, being covered in mosquitoes, being miserable, finding them here make every single one of those days worth it.
As the Midwest Division, we're doing a lot of things to really just expand everybody's capacity. Ramping up training, ramping up partnerships, really trying to get more fire on the ground to help restore those systems. On a human-dominated planet, if there's something that needs to happen that would benefit that system into the future, humans need to be the ones going in and doing that. Ensuring that those natural areas have what they need to survive.
Oh, thank you, Stuart. I love that video. I think I could watch it time and time again, just on my own work of identifying bird species, if nothing else. But it is wonderful stories there. And as the video mentioned, and Stuart in his words there talked about our Midwest division, and we are doing more and more work across the 5 states that make up our division, which are Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan. We're really trying to work much more as a unit of 5 states. And I think what we'll see in the coming years is it'll allow us to scale up our impact with conservation by working more together. So last speakers, and then we'll get into maybe a few questions here. I want to introduce Elizabeth Mabey. She's new to the Nature Conservancy, but not new to conservation. And she's our stewardship leader. And then Cassie Housewald will follow her. And Cassie's our conservation program lead. And many of you know Cassie. So look forward to hearing both of them right now.
Thanks, Larry. Some of my earliest interactions with people in the field of conservation were with Indiana Nature Conservancy staff. After 20 years of waiting for the right opportunity, I've accomplished a career goal that I set for myself long ago. When I think about what excites me, first I have to mention I'm now working for the Nature Conservancy. As Director of Stewardship, I'm excited and humbled to lead a team of over 20 staff who manage more than 34,000 acres of land in Indiana. These staff are unmatched in their depth of experience and knowledge in the management of Indiana's most biodiverse places. Not only does high-quality management keep these special places functional for all kinds of wildlife that depend on them, they act as reserves of wonder for Hoosiers. We steward places that relax, inspire, and restore the visitors that spend time with them. As I look forward to what 2025 holds, I can't wait to get outside with stewardship staff and learn about the challenges we face and the opportunities we're pursuing. Across the season, I plan to smell the lupin in bloom in the spring, see early summer color in our fens, spend time in glades and grasslands at the height of their summer glory, and of course, delight in the shade and color of our forest communities from spring through the fall. Larry mentioned that his word for 2025 for our organization is renewal. In 2025 on our stewardship team, we're looking to settle in to our new stewardship team organizational structure and renew connections with each other across the state. We're looking to expand new collaborative relationships and strengthen existing partnerships within the Midwestern and Indiana-focused conservation communities. Collectively, we're leaning into bold goals for our next 5 years. We'll challenge ourselves to consider how we work more efficiently and how we expand our delivery of conservation beyond TNC-owned lands. I hope you'll join me in my goal to get outside and explore your favorite or perhaps a new to you preserve across the state. And I'll pass it on to you, Cassie.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And thank you to all the people listening, but all of my colleagues who just really inspire me. And I saw a note in the chat from Lily that the videos were bringing on tears, and I feel the same way. So very happy to be here this evening, and happy to be back at the Nature Conservancy as conservation lead. That is affording me the chance to get out and see all the breadth of conservation work that we're doing in the state. And so I've heard some themes echoed this evening, one of which is connection. I've heard that in a number of these presentations. And I'll share my own example of connection. This is a dam on Big Indian Creek in Corydon, my hometown. And we hope to remove this dam this fall. This last fall. That's the last dam on Big Indian Creek. And so there are now more than 500 miles of stream and tributaries connected for fish to move in this system. And hellbender salamanders will be reintroduced here as a result of this work. So that's just one example of connection that I'm really proud of this year. I also am really excited about the people and places that we're conserving. And so this is a picture taken in November at Ivanhoe Nature Preserve in Northwest Indiana. We're standing on a sand dune, which has a very rare plant community, I'm told. I haven't seen those rare plants yet, and we weren't seeing them this day, but I, like Elizabeth, plan to go back in the spring and smell the lupin blooming. And something I learned here, and that's one of the things that I'm excited about at TNC, is that this dune is further inland, and it represents the former shoreline of Lake Michigan. And there are a series of 13 dunes on which Lake Michigan once bordered. And so that was really humbling to me, and also told me I have a lot to learn. I think there's a picture, the next picture is a slide showing this same place in the spring. And so around May is the time to go back to Ivanhoe and see these flowers and maybe particularly smell these flowers, stop and smell the lupin. I also, I can't remember exactly what my next slide is. There we go. I'm actually calling in this evening from Denver. I'm at the National Bison Association meeting and have been very encouraged and have learned a tremendous amount about bison and how the bison that we have at Kankakee Sands are contributing to the conservation of this species. And there's just been so much learning. I've seen slides today of bison poop, of bison genomes, and all of that in concert with some of our staff from Kankakee Sands who are here with me, and just the flurry of ideas of things that we can come back and experiment with in Indiana. And I think the next slide is a picture of a bat. This is actually a red bat, a forest dwelling bat. But we have a bat mitigation bank in Indiana, and I got to negotiate some of the lands that are in the mitigation bank, and the mitigation bank sells credits for bats. So we bring that money in and buy more land and are able to protect more land for bats, not only summer, but also winter habitat. So we've conserved some caves where Indiana bats hibernate. And there's some really good news in that from 2022 to 2024, the Indiana bat population in one of those caves, in Jug Hole Cave, increased by 7% to almost 99,000 bats. And so that's nice to see. That's not completely, that's not the whole story, but that is an exciting bit of the story. And I'm excited to see where our future bat conservation efforts can take us. And I think the last slide I have is just a photo of two of our newest TNC staff. This is Lydia and Will. They are part of the strike team that Stuart referenced, and they are helping us to get more fire on the ground. They also are bringing new ideas and enthusiasm to what we're doing, and they represent just one of many, another word you've heard tonight, partnership with the U.S. Forest Service and our division, our Department of Natural Resources Division of Forestry. And I anticipate that next year at this time, we might have a presentation that's themed all around partnerships and the interesting ways that we intersect with a number of different groups. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Larry, to close us out.
All right. Thank you, Cassie and Elizabeth. And Yeah, what a great group of stories. And it's just like the tip of the iceberg of all the things we're doing. And of course, we're still protecting land. I think last year with another year of over 4,000 new acres of land protected in Indiana that we led and did for our state. So we still do the great work across the board. So I want to hand it over to Chip Sutton. He's in our marketing communications team, and Chip's going to facilitate us here with maybe a few questions that might have been popping up in chat or other ways.
Yeah, Larry, thank you very much. I'm going to take us to the top of the hour with questions. We did receive several comments about how people are enjoying the webinar and, of course, the videos, and we're all grateful to hear that. And Larry, the question, we received a similar question on this afternoon's webinar. This person writes, I love the campaign video. Do you know how you will spend the $48 million?
Well, yes, and that's a very simple question. And thanks for asking it. First of all, yeah. So we were very successful. I think sends a huge message to our state, all of Hoosiers, that people are willing to invest in conservation. We have spent those monies that you've given to us over the past 5 years on all the work that we've been describing. It's the land, it's the managing the land, it's the facilities, and it's working on clean energy work and things like that. And so, yeah, we invest your dollars immediately. And I always want to make sure people that we are not sitting on a $48 million bank account right now. We actually take your dollars and invest them, just like we say when we're talking with you about your generosity, as we put your money to work immediately.
Great. Thank you very much. Cassie, we got a question about one of my favorite creatures, the hellbender salamander. And this person asks, they're unclear about how the salamander relates to water quality. The presence of the salamander relates to water quality.
Sure. Hellbenders, if you know what they look like, they have folds of skin on the sides of their body. They breathe, they're completely aquatic. They never come out of the water. And so they have to breathe through that skin. And you can't breathe through dirty water, just like many other things don't want to live in dirty water, neither do hellbenders. So if you have hellbenders, it means you have some clean water. There's some other requirements, but that's the basic water quality piece.
Great. Thank you. And Stuart, we got a controlled burn question. And I assume this person is talking about TNC burns. Are any of the controlled burns done on private farmland or private prairie? And when private landowners have concerns about their acreage, who do they reach out to for a controlled burn?
Yeah, so for the first part, the burns that we lead are typically on our own property. We don't usually burn private property. We do sometimes if it is for the greater conservation good, but we don't typically do that. But if you were interested in having your property burned, burning it yourself or hiring a contractor, there's a number of really good resources out there. One that I should definitely point out is the Indiana Prescribed Fire Council. The Indiana Prescribed Fire Council has a really nice website, and there's a resources tab on there. So if you just put in a search engine, Indiana Prescribed Fire Council, we pop right up. There's a lot of resources there. You can also talk to your local district forester. So the Division of Forestry, DNR Division of Forestry, has district foresters all over the state. They can help you consulting for wooded areas. If you're looking more of a grassland or some kind of farm bill program and you're interested in burning that, consult with your local NRCS office. If you're interested in burning for like wildlife benefits, the DNR Division of Wildlife also has a number of district wildlife biologists who would be happy to talk to you about that.
Great, thanks. I think we have time for maybe one more question. Oh, and it's a good one. And I'm not sure who to direct it to, maybe Elizabeth. Is there a target species or several species that you would like to improve the population of? I don't know if we have enough time to list them all, but
Yeah, you may be surprised to know that there are literally hundreds of species that The collective conservation community in Indiana and the Midwest are focused on maintaining or improving populations of. So pick your favorite animal or plant or insect group, and there's chances are there's 1 to 20. And we work to support biodiversity in our habitats so that all of those species can find a place to live and thrive.
Great. Thank you very much. That takes us to the top of the hour. Any unanswered questions will be answered in the follow-up email. So if your question didn't get answered, fear not, it will. Back to you, Larry.
Right. Thanks, everyone. And what a talented group of staff we have here in Indiana to care for our natural resources and all. As we close out here tonight, I'm going to leave you with 4 words actually here. Culture of conservation community that Elisa shared with us. There was a question I seen in the chat about what does TNC need most? Quite honest, it's what nature needs most right now. And it's that culture of conservation community to get really active and help conserve our natural resources. Thank you all. Enjoy your night.